These are our men. Parker Watch Company and its dealers throughout America dedicate this program to the United States Treasury Department for the sale of war bonds. With Richard Allen as our special guest today, we proudly present another in this series of dramatic programs, These Are Our Men. Fight for total victory, these are our men. Eisenhower, Nimitz, Marshall, Arnold, Wainwright, Halsey, Clark, Patton, Bradley. Today we give you Lieutenant General A.A. Vandergrift, United States Marine Corps. Our story will begin in just a moment. But first, here's our star Treasury salesman. Special guest today, a gentleman from Pictureland, Mr. Richard Allen.
Thank you, thank you. Have you ever heard the story entitled A Report on 7 Patriots? Well, it's a good story for a war bond program, and I'll be back to tell it to you later on in the show.
That's the date, Richard Allen. And I'll be back, too, ladies and gentlemen, to give you the simple information on how you go about getting your copy of our exciting new book portfolio, combining the pictures and the stories of America's top leaders with a special compartment for the safekeeping of your war bonds. Be sure to have a pencil on hand. Right now, the authentic story of a great American. In telling you the life story of Lieutenant General Vandergrift, Commandant of the Marine Corps, we start without apology by making this statement. He's the toughest, fightingest Marine of them all. He fits all the specifications of a leader of men. And his Marine Corps would follow him in a mass assault on the planet Mars if he so directed. But that doesn't give you a full picture of the man or his character. So, well, let's go back a couple of years. Let's go aboard a ship, plowing in convoy through the embattled waters of the South Pacific, where a tall, rugged man with keen, piercing eyes sits in his quarters writing a letter.
The memory that I'll carry with me until I return to you is the soldier's farewell you gave me. Remember that I'm coming back at the end of this, and that together you and I will live out the late autumn of our lives in Virginia in peace and quiet. When you remember me in your prayers, as I know you will, also ask that I be given the judgment and ability to lead this splendid outfit so that it will accomplish its tasks with the least possible loss.
The man stops writing a moment and looks out to the horizon, beyond which lies his goal, a jungle island held by powerful enemy forces. Then he continues.
Tomorrow morning at dawn, we land in the first major offensive of this war. Our plans have been made, and God grant that our judgment has been sound. We have rehearsed the plans. The officers and men are keen and ready to go. Way before you read this, you will have heard of it. Whatever happens, you will know that I did my best. Let us hope that best will be enough.
That letter was written on August 6, 1942, 24 hours before the Marine assault on Guadalcanal. The man who wrote it was, of course, General Vandergrift, then commanding general of the 1st Marine Division. And, as happens to most men on the eve of battle, when the future is an enigmatic question mark, General Vandergrift's thoughts turned to home and homeland, to the wife who had been his constant companion for years, to his Marine training days at Parris Island, to his childhood in Charlottesville, Virginia. It was sometime in the summer of 1901 that young Archer Vandergrift, age 14, made a big decision. The decision did not come about by accident.
Archer? Archer! Come here, son.
Yes, Ma. Were you calling me?
I just received a letter from your grandfather, Archer. He's coming to Charlottesville for a visit.
Oh, gosh, that's great. When's he coming, Ma?
Today, on the 4 o'clock train.
Great dinner. Great. Your mother's a fine cook, Archer.
Yes, sir.
Best cook in the state of Virginia. Now, I think I'd better sit down here on the porch a while, get some air.
Here's a chair, Grandfather. Sit over here.
No, thanks, son, thanks. That's better. Much better. And now we can talk, Archer. It's about time you started making plans for the future.
Yes, Grandfather.
Son, have you decided on what you're going to do when you grow up?
Well, not exactly. But I thought maybe I'd join the Navy and see the world.
What kind of an answer is that to a civilized question?
Huh?
As a true Vandergrift, your place is in the Army.
But what's wrong with being in the Navy, Grandfather? You get plenty of action, and you see the world, and besides, you get a swell uniform.
Action. What sort of action do you think you'll get cooped up on a ship? If you want to see real action, your place is in the Army. Besides, you want to think of your future.
Can't you have a future in the Navy, Grandfather?
That's beside the point. The point is, well, as a true Vandergrift, your place is in the Army. To carry on where I left off. Now, when I was a captain in the Confederate Army, I was once ordered to take my company and attack a certain position. There we were, surrounded on all sides.
Archer! It's time for you to go to bed.
Yes, Ma, in just a minute. So what happened then, Grandfather?
Well, there we were, surrounded on all sides, and I gave the order to charge. I made up my mind that I was...
Archer, your breakfast is waiting.
I'll be right there, Ma. Go ahead, Grandfather. What happened after that?
Then I walked up to General Lee, and I said to him, General, there was nothing to do but I...
Are you going to the store for me or not?
Yes, Ma, in just a moment. Go on, Grandfather, go on.
Then we dug ourselves in and waited for them to come, and then come they did.
By the end of that week, young Archer had his mind made up.
Well, son, you think that's enough action for you?
You win, Grandfather. I'm going to join the Army.
6 years later, Vandergrift was a student at the University of Virginia. He planned to go through school, get an appointment to West Point, and make the Army his career. But that summer, two things happened which changed the course of his life and decided the future for him. The first of these began at a student dance.
I love these Victor Herbert songs. Don't you, Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes, I do.
And this one particularly.
And from now on, it'll be our song.
Really? Why, Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes, really, Miss,
What seems to be the trouble, Mr. Vandergrift?
I have a confession to make.
Indeed.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but I don't quite remember your name.
Very short memory, Mr. Vandergrift. It's Strode. Mildred Strode.
Vandergrift didn't worry too much about remembering that name, for 2 years later, he changed it. Yes, 2 years later in Amherst, Virginia, Mildred Strode became Mrs. Alexander Archer Vandergrift. But that's getting ahead of our story. The second important thing which decided Vandergrift's future that summer was his interview with Senator Martin.
Oh, come in, Vandergrift. Sit down.
Thank you, Senator.
Now, Vandergrift, what can I do for you?
Well, sir, it's this way. I've decided to make the Army my career.
Oh, you have.
So I was wondering what the possibilities were of getting an appointment to West Point.
Yeah, I see. So you want to go to the academy, eh?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very commendable, Vandergrift. Very commendable, and I'd be delighted to help you if I could, but unfortunately all my appointments to West Point have already been made, and there are no vacancies.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry to hear that, Senator Martin. I was hoping I'd be able to go, sir.
Well, I wish I could help you, but there's nothing much I can do.
This will break Grandfather Carson's heart. He was the one who gave me the idea.
Yes,
Well, I mean, he was the very anxious that I...
As a matter of fact, I know your grandfather, and I'd sure like to do this for him if I could, but, well, you see how it is.
Yes, sir, I see.
Son, have you ever thought of the Marines?
The Marines?
Yes.
No, I haven't. I was hoping to get an appointment to
Best
West...
place in the service for a young fellow like you. You travel all over the world and get plenty of action.
I was hoping on going to
Let
West...
me tell you something about the Marine Corps, Vandergrift. Some of the glorious history behind the greatest fighting unit in the world. A history that goes back to the time of John Paul Jones himself.
A year later, Vandergrift was second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. The senator was right in both respects. Vandergrift traveled all over the world, and he saw plenty of action. And it was while on duty in Tientsin, China, in 1927, that Vandergrift had his first encounter with the Japs. He was then operations and training officer under the late Major General Smedley Butler. While on maneuvers, he was assigned to work out a special problem.
All right, McDonald. Contact all units and tell them we're ready to push out.
Yes, sir.
And send this radio message to... Wait a minute. Whose planes are those overhead?
Can't make out from here, sir, but they look like
I know what they look like. They're Jap planes, and they're taking pictures of our war games.
Yes, Major Vandergrift. I believe that's what they're doing. Will I send out a protest to the Japanese commander, sir?
Never mind, McDonald. I'll see him in person.
Ah, come in, Major Vandergrift. So happy to see you. Sit down, please.
That won't be necessary, Commander Mitsuoko. My visit will not be a long one.
So?
Commander, I've come to make a protest. While we were on maneuvers today, your planes were seen in the area of operations, taking pictures.
Pictures? Of your maneuvers? How could such a thing happen?
I don't know, but it happened. And I shall expect no further recurrence. Is that clear, Commander?
But of course, certainly. It was undoubtedly our big mistake. Please accept our apologies, Major. I give you my word that it shall never happen again.
But the second day, the Jap planes showed up again. And again, Vandergrift protested to the Japanese commander.
Commander Mitsuoko, you gave me your word that those planes of yours would not interfere in our war games. Now, are you or are you not going to keep your planes out of the area of operation?
So sorry, Major Vandergrift. Japanese planes in your area of operation are a mistake. I give you personal assurance it shall never happen again.
On the third day, the planes came again.
5 of them this time, Major Vandergrift. It seems that the more you protest to their commander, the more planes they send over the next day.
That settles it. McDonald, order up a fighter squadron to drive them off.
Yes, sir. Major Vandergrift, Commander Mitsuoko is here. Team's burned up, sir.
And it came a-running, did he? All right. Show him in.
Yes, sir. Major Vandergrift will see you now, Commander Mitsuoko.
Yes, Commander? What can I do for you?
Major Vandergrift, I have come to protest. You have been assaulting Japanese planes. American fighter squadron tried to engage in combat with Japanese squadron. I want to remind you, Major Vandergrift, of the rules of international law.
I'm afraid you've made a mistake, Commander Mitsuoko. We didn't see any Japanese planes today.
You deny that your planes engaged Japanese planes?
You're mistaken, Commander. According to your own statement, no Japanese planes were supposed to have taken pictures of our war games. Therefore, there were no Japanese planes in our area of operations today. And if there were no planes, how could we engage them? So sorry, Commander. so sorry that you've been upset over something that obviously could never happen, according to your own word, the word of a Japanese officer.
Good day, Major Vandergrift. So nice to have chat with you. I hope to see you again someday under different circumstances.
After that incident, Vandergrift's relations with the Japs were not the friendliest. And in conversations with fellow officers, he said a great many things which bear repeating today.
You mark my words, Sterling. These are not just innocent little mistakes. I'm convinced someday we may have to fight the Japs. And when that time comes, I'd just like to be in a position to give it to them. To give them hell. Give it to them, boys. Give them hell.
They're doing all right, sir.
Oh, I'm proud of them.
Come on, hit the monkeys. Give it to them.
Coming in faster now, Sarge. Look, hundreds of them.
Don't count them, Pulaski. Kill them. Get the mortars going out there.
Sarge.
What?
They got our range. We can't hold out much
What do
longer.
you mean we can't hold out? We'll hold out as long as the general says to hold. Now get back and get going. I'll call headquarters. Daisy calling Buttercup. Daisy calling Buttercup. Almost out of ammunition.
Okay, take it easy. Take it easy. Over. Company B, 1st Battalion, reports heavy attack by Japanese forces, sir. They're almost out of ammunition. Center giving away.
Tell them to hold the flanks. We'll have some help in there shortly.
Yes, sir. Buttercup calling Daisy. Buttercup calling Daisy. Hold flanks. Relief coming. Hold flanks. Relief coming. Look out, General. You're in their line of fire. These trees are crawling with snipers.
All right, Joe. I can see. Now, Thomas, let's go over this chart.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Every man, woman, and child in America knows what happened on Guadalcanal that day and for many bloody days to come. Right now, this small island in the South Pacific is an historic landmark, a monument to the courage and devotion and heroism of a group of men who fought and died and won the first major American offensive of World War II. Many of the Marines who participated in this momentous battle lie buried on the island which they wrested from the Japs. Some are in hospitals. Some have been discharged. Others have joined the ever-mounting ranks of their Marine comrades who have gone on to other victories, to Bougainville, to New Britain, to Tarawa, to Kwajalein, Eniwetok, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, and Palau.
Let me beg of you, find the one I dearly love, tell her I'll ever be true.
Correspondents tell us that after a day of heavy fighting, the men sometimes gather at night to sing songs that bring back memories of home and to reminisce about their comrades fallen in battle and those living who are no longer with them.
Ever prove faithful to her alone.
Boy, hey, that was swell, Joe. Hey, remember how the general used to play that song on his radio at Guadalcanal?
Yeah, the general sure was a bug on Victor Herbert's song.
Yeah.
If there was a Victor Herbert song somewhere on the radio, the general would be sure to find it.
Who said it?
Hey, any of you guys ever get to see General Vandergrift there?
Get to see him. Hey, look, Pee-wee, we practically lived in the same tent with him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure, he was always in the thick of things.
Did you ever get to talk to him?
Get him. Sure, I talked to him. We all did.
What kind of guy is he?
He's an all right guy. Even when the going was toughest, he felt as long as he was around, things were going to turn out all right.
You said it. I guess it was because he never got excited and he was always with us.
Except that one time, of course, when Smitty got things kind of fouled up. Remember?
Yeah, that was really a hot one.
Who's Smitty?
Oh, he's a swell guy. Sergeant Ralph Smith, the general's orderly. He's a friend of mine on Guadalcanal.
Well, what happened?
Keep your shirt on. I'm coming to it. Well, this one day, as I said, it was during an alert. Smitty got things kind of fouled up. The general ordered some coffee, see? Smitty says to the general, I'm going to make it extra good this time, he says, because it's the last drop of coffee in the house. Okay, the general says, I can use a cup of coffee.
So Smitty goes back and makes his last cup of coffee extra good. He practically makes a masterpiece of this last cup of coffee. And when it's made, he brings it in and the general beaming. Here's the coffee, General, he says. Extra good. Okay, the general says, put it down. I can't drink it while you're holding on to it. So Smitty puts the cup down. The general sits down to drink it. He takes the first swallow and he explodes.
What happened?
What happened? Smitty used salt instead of sugar.
Well, what happened to Smitty after that?
Oh, nothing. He's still the general's orderly.
Remember how we used to gather around the general's tent at night?
Yeah, there wasn't much in the way of amusement or anything out there. So the general's tent was the place we'd get our entertainment.
Smith,
Yes, sir.
the men ought to like this.
Turn up the radio. Oh, yes, sir. I forgot, sir. Is that loud enough, sir?
Go outside and listen for a while, and then report back.
Yes, sir. Can you hear it out there, fellas? Yes. Tell the general reception is fine. If you can't hear it just hollering, we'll bring it up some more. Okay, we'll let you know. Everything satisfactory, General Vandergrift?
Fine. Just leave it that way till the men leave.
And that's how we got our entertainment on Guadalcanal.
He sure was a considerate guy, all right.
Yeah, you said it, Pee-wee. Considerate and genuine. There was just one thing about him I could never understand. Lots of times I had a chance to look into his tent, and I used to see him writing letters. Must have written at least one a day. I wonder who he was writing all those letters to. Do you know, Chuck?
No, I don't, Harry. Maybe he was making out reports.
No. They were letters, I know. I used to see him put them in envelopes. I could never figure out who he was writing them to.
Well, Chuck and Harry, if you're listening, the answer to that is they were letters to his wife, Mildred Strode Vandergrift, the girl he met at the university dance in Charlottesville, the girl who has been his constant companion, who shares his thoughts, his dreams, his victories.
Well, my dear, the fighting is now over, and we have the place we set out to take. It was a grim fight, terrible and inspiring. The men, or really boys, most of them, fought like demons. They fought in the best tradition of the Marine Corps, and I could add nothing to it. Some of them lie buried on this island in the Pacific, thousands of miles from home. But I'm sure that the people in America, as well as all the other freedom-loving people throughout the world, will never forget them or what they did, as they will never forget this new chapter in the history of the Marine Corps. I'm proud of these men, and I'm also confident that their comrades, the thousands of Marines who will fight on other islands in the Pacific, will avenge their death and go on to new victories. Guess it's beginning to get cool at home now, and the leaves in the mountains are turning. Wish we could take a trip to Big Meadows and the Blue Ridge together. Perhaps someday we will. Your loving husband.
Thank you, Floyd Buckley, for your moving characterization of General Vandergrift. And thank you, Stotts Cotsworth, for another nice job of narration. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's our guest again, superb star of the soon-to-be-released picture, The Johnny March, Mr. Richard Arlen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arlen reads for us a short document. It's called A Report on 7 Patriots. I ask you to listen carefully and to remember.
This is a report by an American who has just journeyed through this land of ours. I heard the Gulf waves pounding on the sunny shores of Florida, and I smelled the fragrance of wild jasmine in the hills of Carolina. I picked the last sprig of mountain laurel on the slopes of the Alleghanies and tracked my way across the snowy carpet of New England, where in the spring purple lilacs bloom. In a schoolyard in Texas, the kids were playing hide-go and tag and kick the wicket. And out in San Francisco, the Bobby Sox Brigade played hooky to listen to Harry James. Matinee, reduced price. I saw Wisconsin farmers meeting in the county seat to talk of tuberculin tests for cattle and of crop prospects for the coming year. And I looked into the eyes of a Pennsylvania miner as he wiped the coal dust from his face and read a wire beginning. The War Department regrets to inform you. I saw the draftees on their way to camp, faces white, but wisecracks spouting from their lips. I saw the gold stars shining in the windows of thousands of homes and stood proud and straight in hundreds of halls while they sang the Star-Spangled Banner and renewed their pledge to go all out for victory. Yes, these were the things I saw and heard, enough to bring pride to the boiling point within the soul of any man. But I laughed. I tell you, I laughed. The pride went out of my soul, and I cursed myself for being a fool. And why? Why? I'll tell you why. At a cashier's window, I saw them lined up, 7 of them, cashing the war bonds they had bought at a rally. Patriots all while the crowd looked on, but don't give a dammers when they're alone. Yes, there they were, cashing the bonds they had bought in the heat of patriotic fervor, or to make an impression on their neighbors, demanding money and getting it. But why not? No one would know that they were 60-day patriots. No one could see them. Well, I saw them. And I tell you, I laughed and I cursed myself for being a fool. And maybe those 7 patriots will admit that I have the right to do both. For you see, I am an American soldier. And I died today in Belgium.
Thank you, Richard Allen.
These are Our Men, featuring today the dramatized story of General A.A. Vandergrift, with Richard Allen as our special guest, is presented each Saturday by the Parker Watch Company and its dealers throughout America. But not to sell watches. What we ask you to buy is bonds, war bonds, more bonds. Have you sent for your copy of the beautiful book portfolio which the Parker Watch Company has had prepared for all who want it? If not, well, you owe it to yourself to write today. It's a wonderful booklet in brilliant colors with the pictures and biographies of all the great American war leaders being dramatized on this series of programs. And, in combination with it, a portfolio for the safekeeping of your war bonds, as well as a handy chart for recording the serial numbers of your bonds. You'll be proud to own it, and you can, simply by sending us the mailing and wrapping cost of 10 cents. That's all. Address your request to the Parker Watch Company, Post Office Box 14, New York 19, New York. Why not do it today, right now? Write your name and address on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, enclose 10 cents in coin only, and mail it to the Parker Watch Company, Post Office Box 14, New York 19, New York. For your copy of our combination book portfolio entitled, These Are Our Men. Next week, These Are Our Men will bring you the story of Admiral Nimitz, and our guest star will be Jack Benny. So be sure to tune in, same time, same station. The music for today's program was composed and conducted by Joseph Chernyavsky, and the entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. These Are Our Men is recorded by the Office of War Information for shortwave rebroadcast to foreign countries. Don't forget now, for your copy of our new combination book portfolio entitled These Are Our Men, Send 10 cents in coin only to the Parker Watch Company, Post Office Box 14, New York 19, New York. This is Jack Costello speaking.
This is the National